Russia may be acting like an outlier, but it's in the market for a friend. Is finding a tentative one in an old foe, China. They didn't always agree. China rejected Russia's annexation of Crimea, has been vocal about that. But the disdain both countries have developed for Western nations has brought them together. One hint of that, China's foreign ministry today refusing to call what's happening in Ukraine an invasion. The coziness of the two nations on display at the Olympics just a few convenient weeks ago served a serious and timely purpose for Russia.
Beijing did not give Russia a green light for this incursion or invasion, but nor did it give it a red light.
Just hours before the opening ceremony, the two leaders met and seemed to make a plan. What came of it was a 5,000-word document declaring theirs a friendship with no limits, especially useful now in the face of sanctions.
It is throwing out a life buoy, something that it can hold on to in some areas, and hope that to maintain that connection to Mr. Putin and his government.
Consider that Russia currently supplies roughly 35% of Europe's oil and gas needs. At that Beijing meeting, China agreed to buy more of both from Russia over the next 30 years, a $120 billion deal. So if sanctions affect the European market, Russia has a ready replacement. More purchases of wheat are likely to follow. Key, though, will be ensuring a flow of money, something the West is determined to stem.
The Chinese development banks are very likely to continue major loans to Russia, denominated in rubles or in the Chinese currency.
There are risks here. China has relationships with Europe and Ukraine it doesn't want to jeopardize, has different concerns, but those are China's problems to sort. Putin is in protection mode. He made a useful friend, all the while knowing he was about to make so many others enraged. So let's bring Irvin Student back in. So, Irvin, what's the potential risk to the rest of the world of China and Russia getting, that much closer in this moment?
I don't know whether I'd call it a risk. I think we have to appreciate that while in Canada we imagine that the United States is the center of the world post-pandemic is China, whether we like it or not. China is the biggest country in demographic terms, and Russia is the biggest country in territorial terms. And combined, that is really the center of the world. It's the old Eurasian axis, the Eurasian crescent, and they know that extremely well. And we, to their imagination, are on the margins. We have to appreciate that, and then we have to play commensurately. They're very pragmatic between the two. They're less ideological than we might imagine. They have a history of bloodshed and conflict and opportunistic friendship. They have huge borders. Russia, in my view, is the most complex country in the world with 14 land borders and 3 maritime borders. And China is the most powerful country economically and strategically coming out of the pandemic. So combined, they're a formidable force, and we'll have to take them at face value.
In a way, though, could China also be potentially useful to pulling Putin back?
Absolutely. I think 2 segments ago on the National, I called for Asian intervention. That Asian intervention would be, I think, well received both in Kiev and in Moscow because it is less ideological than we are in the West. They are respected by both capitals, and they have cards to play. They have economic cards, they have diplomatic cards. So here I'm thinking about Beijing, New Delhi, South Korea, Seoul, Pyongyang, and Israel. So those are key Asian countries, East and West, that have cards to play that we don't.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sticking with us tonight. Irvin Student, editor-in-chief of Global Brief magazine.